Hello and welcome to the review of the Five Senses podcast on Larrikin.fm. Here I have my co-host Aiden K. Aiden,
How you doing, Jay?
wait,
All the
doing
way.
good, doing good. All right, you wanted to give us like the long and short of your notes?
Yeah, sure. Let me just
For it.
grab my phone real quick.
Yep.
So I texted you after your podcast, and
Come a little closer to the mic, I think.
yeah, I can turn it up. Gain, 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 gain. Yeah, good. All right. So I texted you and I said, all right, because you said something about how serotonin was the touch hormone that you got after you would touch somebody, and you release this hormone that promotes adult pair bonding and long-term relationship shit like that. And it's it's oxytocin was what we had in our notes and we learned about. So a really cool thing about that is you love somebody and you get married and stuff and all this oxytocin's flowing, but once she has a kid and she starts pair bonding with that, she'll love the kid exactly as much as she loves you. So it's kind
Right,
of because
right. So in the episode of Rick and Morty, where Rick says to Morty, like, love is just a release of chemicals in your brain that compels animals to breed. Break the cycle. Focus on science.
mhm.
You know? So like, yeah, that is oxytocin is totally all about bonding. But the point about touch and serotonin is that serotonin is the first step in this long chain of chemical reactions that starts the cleaning crew to clean up your genes
Okay.
from all like the methyl groups that get on there, and then your proteins can't read the code if there's a bunch of methyl groups stuck on there.
Methyl groups.
Yeah, so when the mama rat licks her baby and when the mom swaddles, like the human mom swaddles her baby, serotonin gets released and activates the cleaning crew so that you can pass on the genes effectively. A neglected rat baby, a neglected human baby will pass on shitty, gross, methylated genes. Is like the point.
Fuck that. I don't want those.
What else do you have in your notes?
You said that the olfactory bulb is the only regenerating cells in the central nervous system, and you also said that it was, and then it wasn't in the same sentence, and then I said that the hippocampal cells are ones that regenerate, because we actually just did this in our neuroscience class, and they've done studies on SSRIs and why they work, because the whole thing about them was they discovered them, they started giving to people, and they were like, oh, look at that, these people aren't as depressed anymore. But what they found out through years and years of study is that they tend to see that more depressed people get better from SSRIs. I'm sorry, and less depressed people don't. They just kind of stay the same, kind of like how L-Dopa works, which I'm almost through Awakenings, but onto that later. But yeah,
I still haven't finished Awakenings.
yeah, it's so hard to get through. I finished
Yeah.
all the case studies and stuff, and I'm on to his things, which is cool, but it's still another 150 pages before I even get close.
Yeah. You know how in ancient Greece they had the four humors, it's yellow bile in the liver.
Actually, that was Middle Ages. Middle Ages, they thought about humors and stuff.
Yeah, but it was up until the 1800s. They still had bloodletting in
Yeah.
the 1850s, 1860s, and 70s. They were still on that kick. But a cool thing that I heard in this book called Emperor of All Maladies,
Mhm.
so you have all the different humors that have all these. They cover every ailment under the sun, but the black humor only has reference to two ailments. One is cancer, comes from black bile or black humor, and then so does depression.
Really?
Yeah, so I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. that they put those two together.
Wow.
It's like a metaphor for some shit.
It's almost like the two that's just like we don't know anything about, so we're just gonna lump them
Yeah.
with black
Yeah, I
shit.
want to say that it's the black humor. It's like
Oh,
the most
disease,
mysterious one. Yeah, but about the olfactory bulb in the podcast, I try to clear up a misconception. Like a bunch of popular YouTube channels were like, hey, because the olfactory bulb is the only part of the central nervous system open to the environment, that it takes on a lot of wear and tear. So they, it's because of all the wear and tear. And they had studies done on rats and mice that confirmed that. But rats and mice are like heavily dependent on their smell because they're so low to the ground. But humans are bipedal, so our sense of smell is not as important. So we don't regenerate the olfactory bulb at all. At
really?
all. Yeah.
Well,
The
I mean, I wouldn't even be like that surprised about it because to me, the olfactory bulb is like outside of the central nervous system, kind of, because like um,
they're proper neurons though.
yeah, but like their first order and stuff, and like we learned that like there's only like two pseudo-unipolar like neurons, and like trigeminal like goes out to this part, and like all this is pretty much like peripheral kind of. It's kind of just like PNS, but whatever. It's also cool because like the olfactor is exposed to the outside, right? And like we never see it in our brain specimens that we dissect and stuff, because the only way you can get a whole intact brain is if you rip the olfactory bulb up through the cribriform plate, because it goes through here, and then it's like it's all the cell bodies are right in here in your nasal
So you'd
mucosa and
have
stuff.
to like take a saw to the bone, but like
Yeah,
some kind
you'd
of
have to
special
like
tiny saw that could get
right.
in there.
Mhm.
That's pretty cool.
And then you wouldn't preserve the skull, so they just
Right.
open you up and just rip it straight out.
So there's like a hole, and then bloop, there's like a big bulb, and then the ball can't go up through the
Well,
hole,
because
basically.
maybe think about it, like maybe it's not even like a whole.
Like,
Maybe it's just a bunch of little tiny fibers going through that cribriform plate. That's why it's like cribriform. And when you like pull it up, it's like a hair knot. You get a hair knot and like you pull it through, but all of a sudden like it all gets stuck in one spot, and when you pull it, it just rips through the cribriform plate. You just joined a video call. Yo, wait, hold on. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. You're like muted, I think.
all right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, well, good. I was just cursing at the top of my lungs at Google, so it's a good thing it was muted. I don't know. It said like, please reload the page. It just shut down for a second. I don't know what happened. All right, so I was saying that it's kind of like you get your ball sack stuck in a bear trap and you can't pull it through. Is that kind of what the olfactory bulb through the cribriform plate is like?
That all the time. God, I never go outside because of that.
Yeah, it's in my nightmares. All right, so what else? What else do you have in your notes besides? Oh, I didn't mention. There's this guy Johannes Friesen, this Swedish bruh,
Okay.
and he took all the graph of like the amount of carbon 14 in the atmosphere because of nuclear testing,
Mhm.
and then compared that to the amount of carbon 14 in our DNA in our cells.
Mhm.
And that's how we know the date of everything. That's why we know that the hippocampus gets regenerated, because of this dude's study.
Mhm. Wait a minute. Back up.
Yeah.
So.
So pre our modern conception that the hippocampus regenerates,
Yeah.
like we were like, no, everything in the brain stagnant. You can't get new neurons. That's not how we work, because our identities are cemented forever. And then this dude, I think he started releasing data in 2004, and then in 2014, like there's still like so much to be learned. So in 2014 was when he figured out that the olfactory bulb does not regenerate. But this has been going
Oh wow.
on for a while, like just trying to parse through the data.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it when we're in like class and stuff, and somebody will ask a question, and she's just like, "I don't know." I'm like, "What? What do you mean?
Well,
No."
that's cool though. Like she's not so dependent on her ego that she's like, oh well, and then just stumbles through it. At least she's honest. Like, you don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
Respect.
cool. It's cool. I respect it too. I'm just like, yeah. And she's like really, 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 really smart and stuff. And she always is like, "Yo, ask me questions because you're gonna learn that way,"
Hmm.
which I don't like to do. So
Yeah. Nobody really. I don't. I kind of like to learn. I almost say that. I like
no,
to.
I'm not saying about learning. I'm saying about asking questions. I don't because
Oh
when
no, asking questions in front of people? No, that's terrifying. Well, I
yeah
don't want to sound like an idiot, and I don't want to impede the learning process for everybody else. Like I don't want to be asking questions, slowing lecture down, and then what? We're there for another 15 minutes. I want to leave class. I don't want to stay there.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many incentives for not asking questions.
So yeah, I guess they kind of overwhelm that. But what was I gonna say? Yeah,
Do you have anything else in your notes?
it's one of those things where I'm like, ah, fuck it. Um, yeah, one thing.
So,
It kind of just went with your like whole five special sentences and stuff. But so especially with hearing, the amygdala is like your fear filtration center. So I think I explained it to you. It was explained to us this way. Like you hear something go bump in the night, and you're just like, oh shit, what the fuck was that? Somebody's trying to break in my house, right? That's your amygdala like being like, yo, fight or flight, like activate sympathetic shit, and
right.
it turns you on so that you like can either I guess be scared or like get ready
Yeah.
to fight somebody.
All the muscles just like tense up and you're ready to get out of there or fight or do whatever.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty
it's
sure
the
it's like
startle response. I reference it as like the quickest neural computation that we can do because our sense of hearing only has 5 neurons that it has to get through in order to do the startle response. I'm pretty sure that's the same thing, right?
what?
The startle response would would be involved with the amygdala because it's like
Yeah,
fear. It's got to be the same thing we're
pretty
talking
much.
about.
It's pretty much with all of the senses, but if you think about it, only really like hearing and I guess vision is going to be the only thing that are going to be like startled. So if you see something and hear something like scary movies, any kind of horror movie is going to be like that. Um, yeah, I think that's it.
That was all your notes.
That was all I had.
All right, I'm looking up startle response right now. Acoustic startle response.
I'm
Yep.
startled.
Yeah, amygdala, hippocampus, bed nucleus, and anterior cingulate cortex are all thought to play a role in the reflex. So same thing. We were on the same page, my brother.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's only it's
Things
only
in
five
reflex.
synapses, so it's the quickest sense we can have.
Which one?
Or quickest, the startle response.
Yeah.
Because yeah. All right, so some feedback I got that like was I don't know interesting. Somebody said that when I talk about the snake's infrared sense, and so it can see its lunch, they said you probably should say dinner. And I was like, oh, that sounds better because they're using their infrared sense when the sun goes down, which would be nighttime, which would be
Yeah, I like that.
so.
I like
So I think that's smart. And then something I couldn't talk about because it's a podcast. I can't really explain audio illusions, but the McGurk effect. Do you know what I'm talking about? The McGurk
No, I
effect?
actually had no idea. I thought honestly, I thought that was a writer of a physics book that you said McGurk physics. I was like, oh,
Oh no, these are just
yeah.
3 things. McGurk is one thing, physics is another, and then the dinner versus lunch thing was what I had. But the McGurk effect is you can watch a video of someone going ba 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 and play the audio of someone going ba ba ba, and you'll hear a third sound that's like not inputted at all. So you hear a third different sound, and it illustrates that vision and hearing are not independent of one another. That these senses communicate, and then your brain processes the information and feeds it to your
The
consciousness.
thalamus.
Yeah.
It all meets up in the thalamus. I've kind of figured out. Like,
Yeah. The only sense that doesn't get processed in the thalamus is your sense of smell. Everything else has to go through there.
goes straight through.
Yeah. So the McGurk effect is something I wanted to reference because I wanted to talk about extrasensory
Ooh, ooh,
processing, like
ooh.
with David Eagleman and his vest, and you got like the bubbles on the tongue for the blind people, the vest for the deaf people, and
Okay.
in his TED talk, he's like, "Yeah, there's no limits to this technology," and I'm like, "You built the technology. Isn't that a conflict of interest to say that there's no limits? Like, there's clearly limits on the brain. So if you're saying there's no limits, then you're talking about the technology. Like, what are you getting at?"
Yeah,
So
it's like tooting your own horn, being like, yeah.
yeah, I think he was just trying to sell vests. I think he was being more of a salesman than a neuroscientist.
Mm.
I
For
looked up
David
on
Eagleman, you
his
said?
kick, yeah,
Mm.
on Eagleman's Kickstarter, they're $3,000. So it's he wants the money. Grants are really hard to get. So if he has like another source of income besides like the three books that he wrote, Some, Incognito, and The Brain, you know, he could really he could do good things. So I think like even if he's being manipulative, I don't think the money's going to a bad cause. So whatever.
No, it's probably
Like
just.
he's brilliant. So whatever. If he takes some dumb people's money who think that they can put on the vest and have a Twitter sense, then whatever. Take the dumb people's money. It's cost $6,000 to go watch a TED talk anyway. They all got their nose in the air thinking they're great when they can watch these lectures online for free. Like whatever.
Yo, we should go to a TED talk though.
Yeah, for where are we gonna get $12,000?
You have to pay $12,000 to go to a TED talk.
Did you listen to me? It's 6,000 for a seat.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I selectively hear things. I've been studying all day, dude. It sucks. Um,
Sorry. You got that selective hearing. You were like, "Oh wow, the olfactory bulb is it gets regenerated." No, it was the whole point was to bring it up and then
yeah,
shit on them
I was
for
listening
not
to it while I was
checking their
studying as
sources.
well. That was on Friday. I was like in the library, just like cranking out biochem. But
Yeah, thanks for giving me your full and undivided attention during the podcast.
hey, listen, I got some shit in there. I got some stuff to give you.
Yeah, preach. All right, and then the last thing on my notes I have is physics. So I wanted to talk about the physics of touch because a lot of people released YouTube videos on this
Okay.
where it's like touch as a sense is the remapping of the physical distortion of your skin. But then when you ask the question,
Like that.
why does your skin get distorted? Well, it's because your hand and the table are both made out of atoms, which are orbited by electrons, and electrons don't like to occupy the same space. So when you get really close at the last second, when you touch, that's when you start to feel that those electrons repelling each other.
Mm.
So people have these like philosophical ideas. Oh, you can't ever really touch anything because if you really touched, that would be the nucleus of the atoms coming together, but then they would explode and it's like a nuclear fusion reaction and you'd blow up half the city you're in. So it's just a silly thing to say when Feynman talks about touch, it's like deep and cool. And he's like, touch is a sense that's at really, really short distances. And the reason that we don't feel touch at farther distances is because all these pluses and minuses are canceled out. So we can't appreciate how strong the electromagnetic force is because all the huge numbers, the forces are so strong, they're constantly just getting canceled out because likes like to go with dislikes over and over and over, and then we don't feel anything until we're really, really close.
Mm-hmm.
But when you comb your hair, when you brush your hair, you knock off a little bit extra. Like you knock off a little bit of minuses here, a couple pluses there, and then you can use that to reveal the electromagnetic force at a distance. You can have touch at a distance. You
Yeah.
can
What's
have
that,
electricity.
What's that thing where it's like you can feel somebody like staring at you, or you feel somebody in the room or something like that, and it's almost like an extrasensory perception. Um,
It's just not a thing.
no, it is. It's like an
No,
actual thing.
no, it's not.
Feel people looking at you and shit.
No.
Yeah, dude, it is.
Nope.
I swear to God, I'm gonna look for it. I'm
You're
gonna look.
full of shit. All right, I'll give you a couple minutes to Google it. And if the web page is totally dark and the text is all in yellow and it's talking about how the government is after us and they're looking at reading our texts and they're coming for me, if that's what it says on the page, well then you don't have a good source. I'm telling you, that's
I'm good
you're
about that.
talking shit. You're talking shit. If you can't feel someone's eyes in the back of your head, you can feel like the heat of their breath on your neck. That's like something you can feel, and then you're like, oh, get away, you weirdo.
Right, that would just be your temperature sensor, though.
Right. That's what you can actually sense. You can't feel someone's eyes in the back of your head. That doesn't, no, it's not a thing.
Oh, and anyway, I was gonna say, so you wanted to talk about like, um, um, you said extra perceptory things like vests and stuff, but I was thinking like, what about smell and how you can remember stuff? I think of it more as like hearing, but we're doing a bunch of stuff about like smell, and it's so close to the olfactory cortex that it almost like radiates.
Hippocampus memories. You're talking about how it's
Right, right, right. So your olfactory cortex though is it's in the parahippocampal gyrus.
okay. There you go.
So entorhinal cortex and
Right. You're just saying that the sense of smell where that gets processed is right next to where we make memories.
hmm
So
you can
it's kind of like
remember
the
things
wires get crossed.
like that. Right, and but I always think about like that as hearing though, and I think that it's close by to. And I always remember like the first place you heard a song and like the first place
Yeah.
I mean, and you can picture it back. Like I remember the first
Yeah.
song I've ever heard on an iPod, and it was like
I can't.
Minutes to Midnight, that album. And I was in my neighbor's driveway, and his driveway goes up like this, and it's like on a hill that goes across. Uh,
See,
and it's like I can see it like I'm right there right now. But it's really cool and it's really weird. And I don't know. I thought that was something that I could bring up and you could like do on or whatever the hell you do. But yeah,
all right. Sorry, man. Can you hear me?
yeah. Why did you just go out? I'm
It did it again. It blocked me. It's like a dropped call. Like it's 2016. Google, come on. All right. So you were saying that like that's a visual memory, right? So you're extrapolating the memory, the wires getting crossed with sound. Well then, but isn't vision far away? Haven't we gone too far with that?
Yeah, vision's in the back of your head, so I don't see how that like really.
Yeah. So then I don't know. I don't know what to say about memories and if they have anything to do with the smell and hearing. Now I'm totally against what
Well, I
the
think
common canon is.
um.
Because like yeah, I'm with you. When I hear like a podcast,
Oh, it just knocked me out.
about to lose it, man. I'm about to lose it.
Yeah, well, hold on. It's because I think there's two Jamies going on here. Hold on.
All right, did I just eject myself, or am I still here?
Oh, I think I ejected you.
All right. Well, if I'm still here,
You're still here.
if I listen to a podcast
Yeah.
and say I'm like, I don't know, riding my bike past the library when they say something interesting,
hmm
next time I'm going past the library on my bike, with or without listening like to a podcast, I will recall that memory
Oh, that's dope, dude. I wish
because of
my.
like the visual input, like recalls that. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
And it happens all the time. And I asked my brother, I was like, does that ever happen to you where like you'll be in the same place you were when you heard that thing earlier, and then
Yep.
you immediately. So like when you go in your neighbor's
Right, what
driveway, do you flash back to the first time you heard a song on an iPod?
um, no, it's more the opposite actually.
How do you mean? When you're on the iPod, you're in your neighbor's driveway?
No, if I think it's because of my love of music. So it's like if I hear the song again, or if I think about the song, I'll flash back to it, right?
Right.
So it's kind of opposite. Because I grew up with the kid. I mean, I was always in his driveway, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's more like that specific instance. I remember I was like 14 years old at the time. So yeah, it was kind of cool. But yes, yeah. Wait, so what did your brother say? I wanna ask you about something.
He was just with me 100%, and we
Oh,
don't
okay.
connect we don't connect on things all that often, so it's cool for him to be like, yeah, it totally happens to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because she was talking about how like you smell something and it brings you back, and I'm kind of like, nah, that doesn't happen to me. It's more like auditory.
Right.
So any kind of like visual or I mean, cochlear input would be like that.
Cochlear
Um,
input.
well, vestibular cochlear, right? Vestibula is your equilibrium, and cochlear is your hearing. So,
Yeah, you're just trying to sound fuck you.
nah, dude, I just,
A sound that I heard, it gets the same information. Cochlear input.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying, man. I've got to be
Keep
a
trying.
doctor someday, so I gotta
Hmm.
get the jargon heavy.
You gotta make sure you confuse your patients, and you gotta convince them that you're smart. So you just throw a
Right,
whole bunch of big words
right.
at.
Oh, you went out again, didn't you?
I don't know, man. Google does not like me at all.
Sorry.
Me and Johnny Google are having a hard time today.
Yeah, I can see.
I think
Um,
it's because my laptop's just old and overheating. Can't take it.
my laptop's just a piece of shit. I can't even watch the videos I'm supposed to watch for my one class because it's Internet
Really?
Explorer, Microsoft. Microsoft like locks down this whole Google Chromebook shit.
What? Who would back Internet Explorer?
That's what I'm saying because
Internet
it's like
Explorer is it
overlay.
needs like a whole lot of money, and if it's gonna make a comeback,
It's not going to because Google's
that's
got.
so bizarre that they would set that as like the primary
I know.
uh,
Well, it's through the school, that's why.
web
So,
browser.
and I think it was recorded like 10 years ago, so
Mm.
that's why it was the only thing really available at the time. Yo, so I wanted to ask you, are you gonna do like a podcast on the whole wave property of gravity? Was it gravity?
No, I'm not
Wave property of
qualified for
light.
that.
Was it
I'm
light?
not qualified for that. But check this out. Well, you know what I am qualified for, Aiden?
Kicking some fucking ass. That's what.
Giving people seafood, delivering it to their table. I'm an expert. I'm a professional seafood deliverer. I'm a
No,
waiter. And so this one chick was sitting down at the table, and she's got this French accent.
she's
And I was
gonna
just
whack.
melting in her silky voice, like just like, she was like, yeah, like my husband, he teaches at ASU, and he's in the physics department. He's like the head of the physics department, and she's going on. I was just like, oh, she's like showing me all these like skiing pictures from her in the mountains, and like, I don't know. I just like people were teasing me like, oh, you're gonna give her your number. You're gonna give her your number. So I gave her the contact for the podcast,
Yeah,
and so when I got home, there was like three more listens, and like each on a different podcast. So it could have been her who she just went through and listened to all my stuff. But I was like, oh yeah, like what does your husband think about the experimental evidence for gravitational waves? Like Einstein finally vindicated 100 years later, and she was like, yeah, He's in Switzerland now. He's giving a talk at CERN. Like, I was just like, are you serious? That's insane. That's a great. I like had goosebumps. I was like, you are wow, that's crazy. And I was like, oh,
How did it
America.
go?
What?
What's she doing? She needs some dick or something
Well,
like that.
see, no, she said it's really hard to have a two career family because she was a chem major.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, her PhD's in chemistry, and so she was like, yeah, but I'm just raising the kids and like having a ball. Like I don't care. We go skiing all the time.
Oh
Been to
wait,
Australia all these times. So
wait,
she's
where
like,
is
oh
she?
yeah, our second house in Sedona and all this stuff. Sedona is like the really nice part in Arizona, like
Mhm.
fancy schmancy.
So she's definitely a
Um,
babe then, or something like that, right?
oh yeah, she's a fox. She's probably like 62. Just a smoke show. She's just so cool.
62?
Yeah, she was older.
Oh, okay.
I'll put it at
Here I'm.
58 to 62. That's the range I'll put it
I'm
at.
imagining like a 16-year-old, like straight off, like from fucking France or something like that.
No, she was from Geneva.
Switzerland?
That's where do you go? Like, am I just do I just talk to myself?
You said she was French.
Yes, Switzerland. Yes, and her husband is
You
in
said she was
Switzerland
French,
now.
dude. I
Yeah, that the French
immediately.
speaking part of Switzerland is Geneva.
Good to see
They speak
pool in
French in
other
Geneva,
countries.
dude. Huh?
I said it's good to see that we have pool in other countries. No, no.
Oh, hey, Aiden, I didn't see you there. Are
Oh
we having a
wow, what are you
conversation
doing there?
that Google just does not want us to have? Christ, man.
Yeah. Did you hear what I said? I thought you like it.
I said that Geneva, they speak French there. What did you say?
And I said it's good to see that we have pool in other countries,
Yes. Yeah.
not just Quebec, baby.
We, as in people who actually are French instead of you, who's like 3% French.
No, I'm actually going back to my Polish roots now because
Oh, yeah. Veronica.
Veronica. Yeah, she teaches me Polish and shit, dude. Um,
What do you got for me? What kind of Polish words are we talking?
Dobranoc is goodbye or
Dobranoc.
good
Do
night.
widzenia.
Good night. Good night. And there was something about like sweet dreams, and I completely forget it, dude. It's so fucking hard. It's like not my kind of language, but I'm gonna have to learn it.
Yeah, I
You know?
mean, there's 0% of like conjugates. There's no words that sound the same in English as in Polish. Except maybe like what hi.
Closest
You
to me.
probably get away with like Coca-Cola. Okay, like that's it.
Mm. Yeah, it was bad. There was one thing I was trying to like. I kept saying it and saying it and saying it. And I couldn't get it. It was like the voice in my throat just couldn't make that sound, and I was like, what the fuck? God damn it! This is like what normal people feel like, you know? But what was I gonna say? Oh, she did like my French thing or like cultural thing where it's like we have to sleep with somebody before we can really determine whether we're gonna have a relationship with them. And she was like,
Did
that
you
makes
just
sense to
did you
me.
make that up? And she was like, yeah,
Oh,
cool.
that's a French thing, dude. We sleep with people first, and then we like decide whether that we're compatible afterwards. Instead of the whole American like backwards, like we take somebody out and then instead of the whole we take some people out and we spend a shit ton of money on them and then we sleep with them and realize that our sex sucks and then you know what I mean. So sleep first, ask questions later. You're muted, bub.
Yeah, I
There we go.
still don't think that's a thing, but
It's a thing, dude.
whatever. You do you.
Drew sent it to me, so I was
Respect.
like, this is the thing. Yeah, I was back in like senior year, way back, way back.
TPT.
Yeah, yeah. You see this? You like that?
Acupuncture, something, something, something.
Oriental medicine. So she teaches me a bunch of acupuncture shit. Which is
Wait,
cool.
so you're wearing her clothes? Doesn't the guy give the girl clothes?
Yeah. I I was gifted this sweatshirt by someone who wasn't in the program but got one. And she was like, it's like a large, doesn't even fit me. Do you want it? You going in acupuncture? I'm like, fuck yeah, I do. So I grabbed it. And then some acupuncture student goes to me. She's like, "Yeah, those are the new sweatshirts. How the fuck do you have one and I don't?" I'm like, I don't know. Nice game. Serendipity. Peace.
She said, "Get away from me."
No, she said bang me.
You said, "Sorry, I can't. I got Veronica."
Disclaimer. Dick Daddy's been not banging any puss since I've been here, except for Veronica. Disclaimer.
I don't think you can talk about any banging that you do. It's like I want to turn this audio into a podcast. Can't talk about banging chicks, dude.
All right, let's really get this podcast rolling.
Yeah, we'll start recording now. Hey, welcome to the Larrikin Podcast. My name is Jamie Yasko. I'm your host. This is my co-host,
Dick Dad.
Dick Daddy.
College
Dick
legend.
Daddy French.
Doctor. That's what I'm like. To all my fans. Just wanna say I've been completely clean for 7 hours. We're gonna bring back the music. Oh, I thought you were like,
You sound horrible right now. Can you like stop talking so close to the mic? You got the gain turned all the way up and are talking like this.
oh, can you hear me now?
Still,
Good. Better?
yeah, money.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, get out. Hello. Maybe it's trying to
You
disconnect.
gotta turn your gain up, dude.
My gain is fine.
I think your sock muted it, bro.
Don't you talk about my sock. Ever. How's this? Aiden, if we made a podcast right now, what would you do it on? Oliver Sacks? I asked the Swiss girl who
Jamie,
who
can
I
I
met
do
at
my
the Crab
podcast
Shack.
like this?
I wouldn't have you do your podcast any other
About
way.
these
But it's a
fucking
podcast.
sunglasses.
So
I can't hear you, dude.
Dude, you can literally wear whatever you want. It's a podcast. Aiden, I'm not muted at all. Can you hear me now? Aiden K. What? Why did you not hear me? Because you clicked the button?
Yeah. I clicked the
Goodness.
button. I clicked the button. I think my laptop went and did it because it's got like 20 minutes left. It's like, yo, you piece of shit. And then it just automatically did it because it's a Chromebook.
So
yeah.
it's like a save a battery feature. Okay.
I guess. I don't know.
All right. Anyway, so what I was saying was the Switzerland girl. I asked her about Oliver Sacks, and she doesn't know who he is. So I think we should.
Ooh, yeah. Let's talk about Oliver Sacks for 20.
All right.
So
Oliver Sacks, he is a periodic table aficionado.
He's a neuroscientist to many.
He is probably the worst scientific researcher the United States has ever seen.
Earthworms. Who the fuck cares?
He lost all of his notes. He spent like 9 months collecting myelin off of earthworms' neurons, lost the sample, just basically put 2 years of his life in the trash. And instead of firing him outright, they sent him to a nursing home where they thought he wouldn't cause any trouble. But they clearly didn't know who Oliver Sacks because Oliver had read this kind of like obscure paper that said if you give L-Dopa to Parkinsonian patients, that they might have a spring in their step all of a sudden. And he was like, "Oh, I'll try it out," and then it was just Miracle City. Uh, so why don't you take over, Aid? What else you got to say about Dr. Sachs?
Yeah. All right. So I forgot my book in Victoria's car, so it's gonna be straight from the noggin. Um,
I mean, I'm not reading a script over here, brother.
I hear
I'm
you.
just
All right. So here we go. So for those of people who've seen the movie, it's pretty cool because when he's talking about the Earthworm Mile and shit, the dude's like, "Yeah, it can't be done. You can't collect a bunch of myelin from earthworms and have any kind of significance from it." And Oliver's like, "Yeah, well, I did it." And he's like, "Yeah, so what were your results?" "It can't be done, but I've proved that it can't be done." And I thought that was a great line in the movie. He looked like such a fucking nerd. This was Robin Williams too, so it's like kind of funny at the
R.I.P.
same time.
Yeah, R.I.P. My brother.
And
So
so,
the thing that I don't like about the movie is that they portray a romance between the nurse and Oliver Sacks, or what came off to me as a romance, when Oliver was a homo and he struggled with that his whole life. So to deny him that in the movie didn't feel right
hmm
to me.
yeah, and there was no romance between Leonard and the person's daughter or whatever.
The
Uh,
the nurse, you know who I'm talking about, right?
yeah, I know, but I'm talking about the
So
dude.
you don't think there was a romance at all? You think I'm making that up?
No, I thought there was definitely a little bit.
I mean, because I'm saying it could be in my head, but
Oliver was probably on the sidelines, just like, yo, I actually like dudes, but this is Hollywood. Kind of
right.
gotta let it go. He was like one of the main what do you call them? Like the people that give like credence to whatever the fuck they're trying to say in a movie, like the
Okay. He was like
you know what I'm
the
saying?
creative advisor or something.
Right, yeah, the scientific advisor, I would say. Um, so it was cool. So he brought all the actors to Mount Carmel, which was the place that he was doing that work on. He brought them to different kinds of Parkinsonian homes, I guess, for lack of better words. And Robert De Niro had to play Leonard L. And so what happened was he would go to all these people. He'd Oliver Sacks would explain how they did it. He would like study them until the point where like they actually brought in um, an actual Parkinsonian patient from like the whole Awakenings book, and they had this one scene where he was doing his Parkinson thing, and she was in the scene, and Oliver Sacks asked her afterwards, and he was like, "Yeah, how did Robert De Niro do?" And she was like, "Yeah, I couldn't tell that. I thought he was one of us." So that's got to be like some
Yeah.
high praise from like a person who actually has a disease, and
Right.
to a person who's acting like they have a disease, and they did it to the point where like it's
Yeah, and that's huge when you consider like one of Sax's like famous philosophies is that he loved to blur the difference between identity and disease. So for someone who can portray themselves as having the disease and be convincing at that, I think that probably made Oliver Sacks like ecstatic to see that.
mhm. It's part of the reason why I think he did it. Um, and so yeah, so I've gotten through all of the case studies and stuff, and I'm getting into his three phases of like the things that they had to overcome.
Yeah.
Just to back up a little bit, what happened? It was in 1969, and he's just got this job at Mount Carmel Psychiatric Hospital, and it's like a long-term like institution for people that are like, we don't know what the fuck you have, and we're just gonna keep you here
Yeah, the
until you die.
outcasts.
Yeah, they it's like you don't know what to do with them. So he's working there, and all this new wind is coming up from like the whole L-Dopa craze. Like he's reading all these things. It's like, all right, this is curing like Parkinsonian patients because they got this stuff, and they all their symptoms would be gone because Parkinson's is a depletion of dopamine, in the brain, and what they found is that the substantia nigra, which is like in the midbrain, like the crus cerebri area, it you can see it actually on like cross sections, and it's like one side of it is supposed to be like black and squiggly, like almost like a piece of hair, like right there, and you can see it that there's just it loses its color. It doesn't stay black, and they say that from the book. I think he was quoting something like um 5% to 10% of dopamine loss in like a regular Parkinsonian brain. And then like in these ones, they got encephalitis lethargica, which is like a sleepy sickness, but it caused their brain to swell up, and it like just affected the substantia nigra like the entire time afterwards. And then they would develop these symptoms like out of nowhere. It would just be like throughout the years. And then finally, they when they like actually studied like levels of dopamine, they had like 0.01% to like 0.05%, which is incredibly like low. Um, so that's why they would have these people that would be like sit there and like for years would just sit there like just be completely just catatonic, like wouldn't even be anywhere. They would stare, like like they would either just stare at nothing. They would have these like crazy like isotonic contractions where like their eyes would like go up, and like their neck would just go to one side, and they'd have these things called like oculogyric crises where like your
Because
eyeballs would just go up
dopamine influences your movement, right? Because you want to
a
move
little bit, yeah.
food and
I could
drink.
I could
So
I
a
could draw
problem
the
with
pathway
dopamine
out.
is a problem with movement, so you kind of
Yeah, I could draw the pathway out, but it's like so you have these. It's an initiation of movement and an inhibition of movement, and it's all taking place in like the basal ganglia. But dopamine has like this little fine area where it sends out dopaminergic fibers to the lentiform nucleus, which is I guess your caudate and your putamen. Not sure, don't quote me on it. But so you have your fibers from the cortex going to that area too. You also have the dopamine going here too. So this one's going to inhibit a little bit, and then this one's going to fire. So if you have everything firing at once, eventually throughout the pathway, you have these different things being negative and positive and stuff. And if that goes all the way through, there won't be anything that goes up. It's almost like a self-destructive pathway, and dopamine kind of like comes in. It's like, all right, turn it on, turn it off, kind of shit. Um, so what I think is really interesting from that is that like when you have like zero dopamine, the effect is either the effect is mostly just they get really fucking like catatonic. When if like you have a Parkinson's patient, they have that tremor, right? Like this. That's like a they can't turn off their movement, but it's a little bit less prevalent when there's like less dopamine. But like when there's like zero dopamine, you can't even start movement. So that's why people just like get fucked up. Um, Another thing I thought was cool from the book was how they could the patients could like draw on like outside influences. So say you were walking down the hall with somebody and you like put your arm on them to move them, and it's like they use your movement to move pretty much, because there would be points when like they would be walking and they would just stop and they couldn't do anything about it, and they would stay there for hours, right? But if you like influence the environment that they had like right around them, then there was ways that they could move. So if you would throw a ball to them, right, they would have to catch it because there's something in their like visual field that's moving. And so
yeah,
like
that's one of the things that nobody believed him when he did the write up.
right.
Like the entire medical community tried to shut him down. They're like, no, you had to have made this up. There's no
Hmm.
possible way. And then he would show them the footage of him tossing a ball to one of these catatonic patients, and their reflexes are quicker than a major league ball player. It's
Hmm.
insane. One of the things that kind of frustrated me, I read his autobiography on the move, all the case studies that he did with all these patients from Mount Carmel. He showed them to his supervisor, and his supervisor said, "You can't go public with this. You can't." you can't. I'm sorry. Like this isn't true. You're fibbing. And Oliver Sacks kind of felt what he said because he was like, oh well, I do want to make these stories true and personal, so maybe I was putting too much of myself in it, even though that's what wasn't his intention. He's like, oh, I guess like my supervisor is looking out for me. And then in the corner of his eye, he sees his manuscript being copied by his supervisor's secretary. And he was like, interesting. Okay, file that away in my memory bank, but that's a little weird. Supervisor keeps shitting on him. He's like, no, like I really want to. And then Oliver goes into like a severe depression, kicks it, goes back to London. And while he was at London, his supervisor published his stuff under his name. And a few
Like
weeks
stole
later,
it.
stole it like outright. And then, but in the meantime, Oliver Sacks was in a depression. His mom was like trying to pick him up, get him out of his funk. Like, hey, Johnny, just write some of this stuff. You still have some of your notes from here. Just like write some more. So Oliver like writes like a few more chapters, a few more case studies. And then he has all of his OG stuff from memory. So writes this like extended version, which becomes Awakenings, publishes it, gets like somebody to publish it and gets a publisher to publish it. And then his supervisor is like, oh shit. I totally got busted. So he but nothing, Sachs never pressed charges. He never tried to ruin his career. That's not his style. He's like, I know what's true and you tried to ruin me. And
I like that.
I have integrity, so I'm not even gonna stoop to your level.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, how the fuck could the dude steal it and get away with it?
Wasn't thinking.
Right?
He
Like,
was not.
yeah, you can steal it in short term. Like, that's a great idea.
Right.
But you're not going to be the dude that's going to have all the answers because you didn't learn about it, you know? And then
Yeah.
Oliver Sacks obviously is going to see that and be like, yeah, all right, well, here's the actual stuff, and here I can show you all of it. You know, like it's the truth just finds its way out. The truth finds its way out.
Yeah, because like then he's what, a one-hit wonder, and then people kind of
Right.
oh, whatever happened to that guy? And then Oliver Sacks, like yeah,
From the same place in the same department, just
Yeah.
underneath this guy. Huh.
Mm,
I smell a pussy.
yeah.
A fish.
Similar thing happened with Maxwell. No, not Maxwell. Faraday. So Michael Faraday, the dude who figured out like electromagnetism, essentially, before Maxwell came along and gave him the equations for it. Faraday had like an intuitive, deep in his heart understanding of electricity. But at the time that he was coming up, he was just like a clerk boy. He was a nobody. He was the secretary to the president of the Royal Society. And so the president is like kind of pissed that there's this young kid, like uneducated, didn't come from a wealthy family, and is starting to fall in this child shadow. Like the student has surpassed the master. So Oliver in his autobiography kind of makes that comparison where like he was the student who surpassed the master and the master was not happy about it. Like the president of the Royal Society tried to like get Faraday fired, do anything that he could to smear campaign to get rid of this little brat.
Mm.
But the brilliance is always going to find a way. The truth is going to find its way out, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Because at first I'm thinking like, oh shit, no way. And then I'm like, wait a second. Duh. Like, you almost can't just steal somebody's shit.
Yeah. Maybe I don't know. Maybe this is an instance of hindsight. It's 2020 though. Maybe.
Yeah, wait, yeah, Francis and Crick got away with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, hold on. Give me 1 second to access my memory. Begins with the E, I think.
What, the girl's name?
Yeah. It's like I always want to call her Madame Curie, but it wasn't her. It was all
We'll get
right. My memory's not calling it up. I got to go to my iPhone notes. I have it in my iPhone's notes as like blah blah, not Madame because I do it all the time.
Wait, I got 5 minutes. I need to go plug up.
All right, Rosalind Franklin was the one who
Rosalind
took the
Franklin.
yeah, she took the X-ray images of DNA, and then Watson and Crick were like, "Oh yeah, those are good. That's what DNA looks like," and then had a inspiration, had a oh, it just came to me. Yeah, well, you had a picture of it, so it didn't just come to you. And Rosalind Franklin, of course, doesn't get any of the Nobel or any of the
Yo, I'll be right
acclaim
back.
because she's a
I'll be right
woman.
back. I'll be right back. I need to go get my thing. You'll probably pop out by the time I get back anyway.